The sky was blue for the first time in years. The red mist had vanished. The humming in the air was gone. The alien ship no longer in orbit. It was over, at least. That's what they hoped. Reed stood on the edge of the broken relay tower, watching the city below. Everything was still. No machines, no drones, no whispers in the static. Just wind, sun, and silence. Leo sat nearby, holding Nara's hand. They were both quiet, tired, changed, and Alia. She was dying. Reed had carried her down the tower after. The final flash, her body was light. Blood still flowed from the wound in her side. He'd wrapped it tight. Given her pain meds. But deep down, they both knew she wasn't going to make it. Now she lay under a blanket near a broken radio. Her breaths short and uneven. Leo sat beside her, one hand on her chest. Feeling each heartbeat like it might be the last, Reed approached. Slowly, she's still awake, Leo said. Alia opened her eyes and smiled weakly. You saved the world. No, Leo whispered. You did. She shook her head. I only ran. You stood. Reed knelt beside her. The prime's gone. His signal, too. You ended it. I didn't end it, she said. But I delayed it. There's something you should know. Her voice was faint, but clear. The code inside Leo. It didn't disappear. It changed. Reed frowned. Changed how? It's no longer controlled by them. But it's still active. Alive. Inside him, Leo looked down at his hands. One of his fingertips still glowed, just a soft pulse. Like a heartbeat, not dangerous yet. Reed asked, is it stable? Alia answered, as long as he chooses peace. It stays buried. But if he's hurt, if he's used, if he's taken again. She didn't finish the sentence. Reed understood. The power inside the boy was no longer a weapon built by aliens. It was something new. Something human and humans. Make their own choices. The radio beside them crackled. Anyone receiving this? Is Station North, please respond? Reed grabbed the mic. This is Reed. We're alive. 3 survivors, requesting evac. The voice came back. Coordinates. Reed gave them. The voice replied, hold position. Sending drone scout, you're not alone. Repeat, you're not alone. Reed smiled. After 6 years of silence, another voice. Alia laughed softly. Told you we weren't the last. But then Alia gripped Leo's hand. Her face tightened. It's time. No, Leo said. Stay. You'll be fine, little star, she whispered. You shine brighter now. You're not theirs anymore. Her eyes turned to Reed. Take care of them. Reed nodded, voice low. I will. Alia closed her eyes. Her last breath was soft, like sleep. That night, they buried her beneath the tower, using a broken metal door as her gravestone. Leo carved a message into it with his glowing finger. She gave the world one more chance. The next morning, the drone arrived, a smooth, white machine with a blinking blue light. It scanned them, confirmed they were human. Then opened a hatch. Inside was food, water. A message screen. Reed read it aloud. To all survivors, Earth is waking up. You are not alone. Evac available. But rebuilding begins soon. Humanity will rise again. Leo watched the drone rise back into the sky. He turned to Reed. What happens now? Reed smiled. Now, we start over. 2 days later, they reached the outer camp. Survivors greeted them. Dusty faces, tired eyes, but alive children ran between tents. People cooked over fires, laughed, hugged. Humanity, the real kind, had survived. Weeks passed. Leo helped build homes using pieces of old tech. Nara painted stars on the walls. Reed became part of the camp's new council. No one knew what tomorrow would bring, but they were ready to meet it. One evening, Leo sat alone. Watching the sky, Reed joined him. "It's strange," the boy said. "Sometimes I still hear the code, like a whisper." Reed didn't answer, just waited. Lio looked up. "I could still change everything if I wanted." Reed nodded. "I know. Why does that scare me?" "'Cause you're human now." Reed said, "You feel the weight of choice." Leo thought about that, then smiled. "I think I like it better this way." The stars above twinkled. No ships, no red sky. Just stars. And somewhere far across the galaxy, the ones who made the code were watching. But this time, they saw something different. They saw a species that didn't just fight back. They healed. They chose. They refused to become like their enemies. This was not their Earth anymore. It belonged to humans. The snowstorm. Rescue the Wind howled outside like a hungry wolf. Snow was falling fast, thick and heavy, covering everything in white. The forest was silent. The only sound was the cold wind pushing against the wooden walls of the cabin. John sat near the fire, alone. He held a warm cup of coffee in his hands. It was his third winter in this remote place. Far from cities, far from people. He liked the quiet. But tonight, something felt strange. Suddenly, a red light blinked on the small screen near his door. The motion sensor. Something was moving outside. John stood up slowly. Maybe it was a deer or a wolf. He took his rifle from the wall. Better to be careful. He opened the door. The cold hit his face like ice. He stepped out, boots crunching the snow. His flashlight cut through the darkness. The light caught something. Movement. He walked closer, then he saw them. Two figures lying in the snow. Small, shaking, not animals. Skin was blue. Glowing slightly. There. Clothes were torn and thin. One of them was trying to crawl. The other was still. John ran to them. "Hey, are you okay?" He shouted. No answer. Just weak breathing. He dropped his rifle, grabbed both of them by the arms, and pulled them up. They were light, too light. Almost weightless, he dragged them back to the cabin, leaving a trail in the snow. Inside, he placed them near the fire. They didn't open their eyes. Their skin was cold as ice. He wrapped them in thick blankets, placed hot water bottles near their hands and feet. Minutes passed. Slowly, one of them moved. Her eyes opened big and bright purple. She looked around, confused, afraid. "It's okay," John said, raising his hands. "You're safe now." She didn't speak. But her eyes followed his movements. The second, one opened her eyes too. They were sisters. Almost looked like twins. One had a small scar under her eye. The other had long silver hair. They spoke in a strange language, soft and musical. John couldn't understand, but he could see fear in their eyes. They were not just cold, they were running from something. He gave them warm soup, but they couldn't hold the spoons. So he helped, slowly, carefully. The one with silver hair pointed to the door, then made a scared face. John looked at the door. "Are you running from something?" he asked. She nodded fast. Then she took a small device from her pocket. It was broken. A small screen flickered, showing a strange symbol. 3 red dots and a blinking triangle. John didn't know what it meant. But he knew one thing. Someone was tracking them. The fire crackled. The wind outside grew louder. He checked their fingers. Frostbite. Not deep, but painful. He applied ointment, wrapped their hands. Hours passed. The sisters slept, but not. Peacefully, they shivered in their dreams, whispered in their language. One word came again and again. Varak. What was Varak? John stood by the window, looking into the night. The forest was dark, quiet. But now, He didn't feel alone anymore. He wasn't sure what they were or where they came from. But he knew this. They were in danger, and they needed help. As he turned back to check on them, the silver-haired one opened her eyes. She whispered, softly, in broken English, "They come." John's heart skipped a beat. "Who?" he asked. She pointed upward to the sky. Then the lights in the cabin flickered. The fire dimmed for a moment, and outside, far in the trees, a strange blue light flashed. For just a second, John grabbed his rifle again. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew one thing. This was not a normal night. Snow still fell, soft and endless, like a blanket hiding the world. Inside the wooden cabin, the fire burned low. The only light came from the flickering flames dancing across the walls. John hadn't slept in hours. His eyes stayed fixed on the front door, the rifle resting in his lap. The two alien sisters were asleep now, curled beside the fire under thick blankets. Their glowing blue skin reflected the firelight, giving them a ghost-like beauty. They looked peaceful. A tease, but John knew better. They were being hunted, and tonight something felt wrong. Suddenly, the motion sensor beeped. John's head snapped toward the screen. A small red dot blinked. Movement at the edge of the forest, near the old shed. He stood slowly. Carefully, his boots made no sound on the wooden floor. He grabbed his flashlight, checked the rifle, then turned to the girls. They were still asleep. John stepped outside into the cold. The wind had softened. The snow fell quieter now, like it was trying not to wake the trees. He walked toward the shed, each step heavy. His flashlight cut through the darkness. Trees stood tall, their branches heavy with snow. All looked still, but the red dot never lied. Something was out here. He reached the shed and opened the door. Nothing inside but tools and firewood. He swept the light across every corner. Empty. Then a sound behind him. Snow crunching. John turned. Fast, rifle up, and froze. In the distance, a figure stood between the trees, tall, covered in black armor. Its helmet reflected the moonlight. No face, no eyes. Just silence. Another figure appeared beside it. Then, another. 3 total. They didn't move. They just watched. Him. John's finger tightened on the trigger. Then the middle figure raised its hand and pointed to the cabin, to the girls. John didn't wait. He stepped back, slammed the shed door, and ran. Snow kicked up behind his boots. His breath came in short bursts. The trees blurred as he moved fast toward the cabin. He burst through the door, locked it, and pushed a heavy table against it. The girls were awake now, wide-eyed, sitting up. Aura was already holding the broken tracker device. "They found us," she whispered. "I saw them," John said, loading his rifle. 3 of them, watching. Nira grabbed Aura's arm and spoke in her language. Her voice was shaking. Aura turned to John. "They are scouts, not full attack." Yet, John frowned. "Why not attack now?" Aura looked down. "They wait. Watching how strong you are." John moved to the window and peeked out. Nothing, no movement. But he knew they were still there. He turned to the sisters. "We need to hide you." Aura shook her head. "No, they will follow. Always." John paused, thinking he couldn't run. He couldn't call for help. No one would believe him, so he did the only thing he could. He prepared. He turned off every light, covered every window with blankets, and placed traps outside old hunting gear, bear traps, motion-triggered alarms, and flares. Inside, he handed Aura a small kitchen knife. Not much, but better than nothing, to his surprise. She held it with skill like she'd used weapons before. "Where did you learn that?" he asked. She looked at the blade, then at him. "Before escape, we were soldiers." John raised his eyebrows that changed everything. "You're not just refugees." She nodded. "We ran because we said no. We were chosen to breed next generation of warriors. We refused." John's hands tightened around the rifle, so that was it. The sisters weren't just escapees, they were assets. Genetic gold for some alien war machine, and someone wanted them back. Suddenly a loud bang on the door. The table shook. Then silence, another. Bang, this time stronger. John raised his rifle. Aura stood beside him. Nira hid behind the fireplace, then a voice came. Deep, robotic, cold. "We know you have them, human. Give them now." John shouted back, "You want them? Come and get them." Silence then. Footsteps fading. The attackers were leaving. John didn't relax. He knew what this meant. They would come back with more, with worse, and next time. They wouldn't knock. The cabin was too quiet. The knock on the door had stopped, but John knew the danger hadn't. He stood still, rifle in hand, staring at the wooden door like it might explode open any second. Beside him, Aura gripped the kitchen knife, her glowing eyes sharp and alert. Nira stayed low behind the table, hugging a blanket like a shield. Outside, snow kept falling. Soft, silent, and deadly. John whispered, "They're not gone." "Just waiting," Aura nodded. "Yes, they test. Watch, hunt like cold beasts." John had seen animals do this wolves in the forest. They watched before they attacked. Tested for weakness, but these weren't wolves. They were smarter. John moved to the window. He lifted one corner of the curtain and looked out. Still nothing. Then a blur, a fast, black shadow moved between the trees. His heart jumped. "Go to the back room," he said to the girls. Now, they didn't argue. Aura grabbed Nira's hand and both ran silently to the back. John could hear their quick breaths and the creak of floorboards as they shut the old bedroom door behind them. He was alone again. John took a deep breath. He had trained in the army years ago, but nothing like this. Nothing with aliens. Still, a soldier's instincts returned. He placed more furniture against the front door. He checked his traps. One near the window, two near the back door. He even tied loud pans to the handle of a shovel and placed it near the stairs. If they got in, he'd hear it suddenly crash. Glass shattered. A black figure dropped through the window. John fired without thinking. The blast lit up the room. The shot hit the wall to slow. The figure rolled fast and silent, like smoke-wearing armor. John turned and fired again. Boom. This time, the shot grazed the attacker's side. Sparks flew from the armor. The figure growled a deep, mechanical sound and vanished behind the sofa. "Come out." John shouted, "Nothing." Then a sharp sound click, click, click like metal claws on wood. John ducked and rolled behind the fireplace just as a sharp blade slammed into the table. He had stood by seconds earlier. This wasn't just a hunter. It was an assassin, and it wanted the girls suddenly snap. A loud crack echoed from the kitchen. One of John's traps. A flare lit up the room with red light. The second attacker had stepped right into it. John turned and shot. Boom. Direct hit. The second alien fell backwards, crashing into the wall, armor smoking. Before he could breathe, the first one attacked, leaping over the table. Blade in hand, too fast. John lifted his rifle to slow. Then a scream. Not his, not the alien's aura. She slammed a chair into the attacker's back. The blade dropped. John kicked the alien hard, sending it crashing into the window frame. Aura helped him up. Her face was cut, but her hands were steady. "You fight, John said, surprised. She nodded. We trained, but never used. Until now, they didn't speak more. The room was full of smoke now. Firelight, red flare, broken furniture. John could hear the second alien crawling near the stairs, injured but not dead. We can't stay here, he said. More will come. Aura looked at him. Where will we go? John thought quickly. There was an old hunting cabin 5 miles deeper into the woods. No power, no tech, no signal, which meant no tracking. Pack everything, he said. Warm clothes, food. Now, Aura ran to the back to help Nira. John turned back toward the attacker on the floor, still alive. Reaching for his dropped weapon, John walked over, stood above him, and aimed the rifle. The alien stared up, helmet cracked. A piece of black metal fell away, revealing gray skin and cold yellow eyes. Why them? John asked. The alien didn't speak, still laughed a low, broken sound, then whispered one word, breed. John's finger tightened. Boom. Silence. Snow blew in through the broken window. Minutes later, the girls returned, bags packed, eyes wide with fear but also something else. Trust. John nodded. Let's move. They stepped out into the storm, leaving the cabin behind, broken and full of secrets. But ahead was freedom. If they could survive the night. The forest was dark, silent, and endless. Snow crunched under their boots as John led the two sisters through the trees. His rifle was strapped to his back, a flashlight in one hand, in the other a flare, just in case. Behind him, Aura and Nira followed closely, wrapped in heavy coats and carrying stolen bags of supplies. Their blue skin was nearly hidden under the layers, but their glowing eyes still shone through the dark like small stars. They didn't speak, no. One did not for the first mile. They were too tired, too cold, too shaken after what happened in the cabin after the fight. The blood, the fire. They knew one thing for sure. They weren't safe anymore. John led them to a place few knew existed, an old hunting shack. Deep in the woods. No electricity, no roads. Just a stone fireplace and a wooden roof. But it would do, for now. They reached it by dawn. The door creaked open. Inside, everything was frozen. But the walls were strong. Dry. It smelled like old pine and dust. John dropped his bag and began working fast, lighting a fire, checking the windows, setting up a few traps outside just in case. The girls sat on the floor near the fire. Nira curled up like a child, hugging her knees. Aura stared into the flames. Finally, John spoke. You okay? Aura looked at him and nodded. Then she said something strange. You saved us. Again, John shrugged. I just did what anyone would do. Aura leaned forward slightly, her face serious. No, not anyone. Almost. She stood and walked to him slowly. You helped us when you could have walked away. John gave a small laugh. Well, I'm not good at walking away. Nira looked up suddenly. Her voice was soft but clear. Our law says that means you are our husband. John blinked. What? Aura nodded. On our world, when someone gives life twice, saves life twice, they become bonded forever. He stared at her, confused. You're saying? I married both of you. She tilted her head. Not like your people. No ceremony. No rings. But life debt is sacred. You protect us. We stay with you, always. John sat down, rubbing his face. His heart was still racing from the night beforehand. Now this. He looked at them. These weren't just aliens anymore. They were something else now. Something real. Alive. Vulnerable. And his responsibility, he asked quietly, do you want This Nira nodded fast, without hesitation. Yes, you are kind. Strong. You don't treat us like tools. Aura spoke slower. We were chosen to breed fighters. We escaped because we wanted choice. Now, we choose you. John didn't know what to say. He felt heat rise in his chest, not from the fire, but from something warmer. Deeper, he had spent so long alone. And now, these two strange beings wanted to be his family. Not for power, not for war, but for safety, for peace. Okay, he said finally, voice quiet. Then I guess I accept. Aura smiled for the first time in days. It was small, but real. Nira ran over and hugged him. Her hands were cold, but her grip was warm. He smiled too, but then, a beep, very soft, very faint. Aura froze. She reached into her coat and pulled out the broken tracker device. It was glowing again. No, she whispered. John stood instantly. What is it? She held it up. The signal. It's active again. John's face darkened. They tracked us, even out here. Aura shook her head. Not them. John narrowed his eyes. Then who? She hesitated, then answered, our own people. John's stomach dropped. You mean? More of your kind. She nodded. Yes, but not allies. They want to take us back, to finish the breeding. Order. Nira's voice was full of fear now. They will say we are broken, disobedient. John clenched his fists. Let them come. Aura looked at him, surprised. You would fight your own kind. For us? He met her eyes. You're my family now, and I don't give up on family. She stepped forward, slowly, and reached up her hand, gently touching the side of his face. You speak like one of us, she whispered. But better. The fire crackled softly outside. The wind began to howl again. A new storm was coming. And so were they. But inside that old hunting shack, something stronger than fear was beginning to grow. A bond, a home, and a reason to fight. Asterisk, the snow stopped falling, but the silence outside was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came before something terrible inside the old hunting shack. John packed bullets into an old ammo box. His hands moved fast but steady. Across the room, Aura and Nira checked the weapons he had handed them, basic tools, a sharp axe, a hunting bow. Not high-tech, but deadly in the right hands. The fire in the fireplace was low now, burning slow. The three of them had barely slept. Their eyes were tired, but their minds were sharp. They're close, Aura said. John nodded. He could feel it too. Like the trees themselves were holding their breath. Then a sharp clicking sound. From outside, they all froze. John stepped toward the door, crouched low, and looked through a crack in the wood. Three shapes moved in the trees. Not in black armor like before. These ones were taller and blue, just like the sisters. Aura, John whispered. She joined him at the door and looked out. Her face went pale. She knew them. High Guards, she said. Elite soldiers from our world. If they're here, it means they were sent by the Order. John frowned. The same order you ran from. She nodded. NIRA single quotes as voice shook. They don't ask questions. They don't take prisoners. John stood up and moved fast. We don't wait. We set the trap now. The sisters followed him as he grabbed the last of his supplies rope. Nails, old camping gear, flare guns, and a small device with a blinking red light. He had made a plan. They would not run this time. 10 minutes later, the woods were quiet again, but the hunting shack was empty. No light, no sound, just the fire, burning low, and 3 sleeping bags near the door. The enemy stepped closer. The High Guards moved in a triangle, silent, careful, fast. Their skin shimmered like ice. Their long arms carried energy spears that hummed with power. One of them tapped the tracker device. A signal blinked. Target inside. One of them said in their alien language. They didn't knock. They kicked the door open. The fire flared. The bags were still there. They stepped inside. Slowly, one of them reached for the sleeping bag, but it was empty. Suddenly, dash click. Boom. A bear trap snapped around the first guard's leg. He screamed. Then flares exploded from the roof, blinding white light filling the room. From the trees arrows flew, bang. A shotgun blast echoed. One of the guards spun back, hit in the chest. Armor cracked. John stepped out from behind a snow-covered log. You picked the wrong shack, he growled. Aura came out from the trees on the other side, bow-drawn eyes. Nira appeared behind the cabin, hurling a flare at the last enemy. Boom. It hit the snow and burst into red fire. The ambush worked, but the high guards didn't fall. They roared. The one with the cracked armor charged at John. John fired once. Twice. Missed, then tackled the alien, both of them rolling into the snow. Fists flew. Bones cracked. Snow turned red across the yard. Aura fired arrow after arrow. She moved like a shadow, fast, deadly. One of the guards tried to reach her, but Nira jumped onto his back, stabbing deep with a broken blade. She screamed, not in fear, in fury. They fought like a unit now, a team, a family. Minutes later, silence returned, but this time the silence felt earned. The guards were down. 2 dead. 1 breathing, barely. John stood over the last one, gun pointed. The aliens. Voice was weak. You protect them. Even now. John didn't answer. The alien laughed. Fool, they were not made for peace. They were built to breed warriors. You cannot stop what they are. John lowered the rifle slowly and said, no, but I can help them become something. Better, he turned to Aura and Nira. They're free now, and I won't let anyone change that. Aura stepped forward and looked at the fallen soldier. You don't know us anymore. She fired one last arrow into his chest. Then it was done. Later that night, they rebuilt the fire, cleaned their wounds, wrapped each other in blankets. No. One spoke for a while. Then Nira whispered, we are not just survivors now. Aura nodded. We are warriors. John looked at them both and smiled. No, we're something even stronger. He reached out his hands. They both took them. Outside. The snow began to fall again, but inside the cabin, there was light. Not just from the fire, but from something else. Hope. The fire was nearly out, but the warmth between them stayed. John sat on the floor with his back against the wall, boots off, shirt torn, ribs sore. Across from him, Aura was carefully wrapping a cloth bandage around Nira's shoulder. Okay. The girl winced but didn't cry. She had fought. She had survived. She was no longer running. The bodies of the high guards had been dragged deep into the woods. Covered in snow, hidden where no ship would scan. For the first time since the sisters had fallen out of the sky, the world was quiet. But quiet wasn't peace. John's thoughts circled. What now? What comes after survival? Aura broke the silence. They won't stop. He didn't need to ask who she meant. They'll send more, she said. Stronger ones. Maybe worse than soldiers. Maybe collectors. John looked at her, eyes sharp. What are collectors? Aura hesitated. They don't fight. They take memories, thoughts, identity. Nira added, voice soft. They erase you. Bit by bit, till you agree to become what they want. John stared into the fire. And they'll do that to you. Aura nodded. If they find us again, yes. A long pause followed. The kind that Feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, waiting for the wind to decide if you'll fall. John stood up, slowly, breathing in the cold air inside the cabin. Then we don't hide anymore, he said. We make them afraid to come back. Both sisters looked up. You want to fight the Order? Aura asked. No, he said. I want to expose them. He pulled a small black box from his backpack. It looked simple load Earth tech, like a hard drive. But it was more than that. It had recorded everything. Their trackers, the signals, the ship transmissions. The fights proof.nira stood up beside him. But who would believe? Earth doesn't know us. John smirked. Not Earth, but there are others. Other species. Other enemies of the Order. Aura stepped closer. You want to contact the outer resistance, you said it yourself. John said. The galaxy's bigger than just them. Maybe it's time someone showed it what your kind is really running from. Atira's voice was quiet. You'd risk your world. For us? John looked her in the eyes. You're not us and them anymore, he said. You're mine, my family. If they want you, they'll have to go through me. Aura smiled, the kind of smile people make after years of fears, small, unsure, but full of fire. Then something strange happened. A sound soft and musical came from outside the cabin. Not a weapon, not a machine. It was singing, faint, distant, not human. Aura stepped outside first, then John, then Nira. In the sky above, stars blinked through the breaking clouds, and high above the trees, barely visible against the dark three. Lights hovered, not chasing, not hunting, just watching. Nira whispered, they're not from the Order. Aura narrowed her eyes. Scouts from the Rim worlds. They've seen our fight. John looked up at the sky and smiled. Good, he said. Let them watch. He turned to the sisters. You've been running your whole lives. Maybe now. It's time to lead. Aura looked at her sister, then back at John, and nodded. We won't run again. The snow began to fall once more, light and slow. But this time, it wasn't hiding them. It was the beginning of something new. Not war, not escape, a mission, a family, a home built not from bloodlines, but from choice, and the first spark of a rebellion that had waited far too long. The universe would soon learn something. Humans weren't the only ones dangerous when cornered. Some aliens didn't need saving. They needed a reason to rise, and now they had one.